People are going to be doing all this deconstruction of religion and still be lost because if you think about it, all the people in the Bible are people of color. So in the US context, if we're calling it the Wahite man's religion, what makes it the Wahite man's religion if all the people in the Bible are people of color? The lens by which you look through the Bible, the lens by which they taught us the Bible. That does not mean you have to stay religious. That doesn't mean you have to stay in Christianity. That doesn't mean you have to stay in Islam. That doesn't mean you have to stay in Judaism. But if you're going to deconstruct fully, and you have to deconstruct the Wahite supremacy. And people make all these think pieces giving people direction on how they should be doing it, and that's the Wahite supremacy. Thinking there's only one way to do it is the Wahite supremacy, and that's what you have to deconstruct from. I was just commenting on somebody's video who practices hoodoo because he was wondering, why are all these hoodoo practitioners giving away the information, like so much information on TikTok? And what I was saying is, a lot of people grow up in Wahite communities and they try to find their identity through different paths, whether that be hoodoo, voodoo, Tutanese music. A lot of people are going to all of a sudden be proud to be black from this Mona Leo song and start identifying as Solon. So there are different spaces, civil rights. People navigate these different spaces to connect with their black identity, but the lens by which they look through determines how they're going to go about it. So if you grew up in a Wahite community where you were the only black person in your friend group, and thus you were the expert on blackness, and now you try to go into these black spaces and you are no longer the expert and don't want to spend the time learning how to be around black people, because yes, it's going to be tough, it's not going to be easy, yes, you're going to be made fun of, because making fun of people is a part of blackness. People say that, oh, because I was mixed, I was made fun of. Because I was African, I was made fun of. Because I wasn't black enough, I was made fun of. There are people who are black enough who are made fun of. Everybody gets made fun of. That's a part of it. Not saying it's right, but you not understanding that part of the black community is why you're having a tough time. So again, these people grow up in Wahite communities. They navigate to black spaces. And instead of integrating with the community, they take the information and then go off to social media to be the expert again. What does that sound like? Wahite supremacy. You're going into these spaces, taking their resources, repackaging, going somewhere else, and distributing it. So when you have people who practice hoodoo, people who speak Tutanese, people who know so much about Black American culture being in the comments, giving away what the meaning of Ebonics is, it's because we are all in this country born into a Wahite supremacist system. So we are all essentially Wahite supremacists. Now, even if we're in the black community and we've been in the black community this whole time, yes, we have adapted into Black American culture, but we still have to be mindful of how we navigate the rest of the world, the rest of the country, the rest of our society, because that determines which lens we are looking through. And you don't pick up on it because they're talking to a camera and giving you this Black American culture. So it's like, oh yeah, they're the expert in blackness. But what are they doing when they step away from the camera? Are they in Black American spaces, or have they isolated themselves? And what is the element of isolation and individuality? Wahite supremacy. In the Black community, you can have individuality and be a part of community. That's why we tend to have very diverse friend groups, because we can be friends with somebody who is different than us. Not that we don't have anything in common with the person, but if they're different, we can be friends with them. What you notice about Wahite friend groups is that those people are exactly like them. So when people are not willing to go through the fire, so to speak, and not willing to learn how to commune with other Black people, they take the information, whether it's actually from the community or it's from the internet. That's why stuff is so disjointed. And another reason they don't get called out is because if they are actually Black American, you cannot tell that they're cosplaying Black Americanness. It's easier to find a fraudulent cosplayer when they don't look like us, but when they do look like us and they got rhythm and they can speak the lingo, but how they move is like, they're still culturally Wahite. So the key to all this deconstructing is to learn the information, learn the history, be in community, and determine for yourself what is right for you, because not all of us need to be doing some of the same thing. You can do all this deconstructing. You can decide to practice Christianity in a different way. You can decide to practice Islam in a different way. You can decide to practice Judaism in a different way. You can decide to not practice a religion at all. You could decide to go practice an ATR. You can go decide to practice anything you want to. It's about who you are individually and what you need. If you need to be an atheist, be that. If you need to be agnostic, be that. If you need to be religious, be that. But to wholeheartedly go into spaces and let other people tell you what to do, that is why he takes supremacy. You're looking for external validation. You're looking for external direction. And that's not what you need to be doing. You need to be learning how to be an individual, but also be a part of a community and actually go into community with other Black people.